Om Shanti. Let's sit in reflection for some time first. Keep the body still and become aware that this world is a stage. It's a vast stage. This whole planet is the stage where the interplay of souls, matter, and God takes place. Just look at the reality. This world is a suspended stage. Which is lit up by the sun, moon, and stars. The sun, moon, and stars are the lighting of this unlimited stage. Millions of souls are playing their roles on the stage. There's a big drama going on. Millions of actors have a role in that drama. There is a live drama going on the stage. I, the actor, am wearing the costume of the body and playing my role. I have taken several costumes, played several roles before this, been in different settings, different co-actors. And now the director has come. He is teaching me how to be myself. how to play the role in the best possible manner in soul consciousness. I played roles with millions of souls over the years and lifetimes. And this is the moment where I am playing the role with God, the supreme actor, the director of this play. My role is shifting from a limited one to an unlimited one. I start seeing myself as a part of the whole now. My identity is not limited to my family, my work. I am a soul, the child of God, an instrument in his task of world transformation. My actions have an impact on everything and everyone in the world. I realize that I am not an ordinary actor. I too am a hero actor. Sit with this beautiful awareness for some time. Om Shanti. So, I have sent you a picture of the World Drama Wheel. Have you seen that on your WhatsApp? Yes? Please raise your hand if you have. Have you received the picture? Okay, thank you. So, I have been telling you that this whole play operates not as a straight line but as a circle or a cycle. And because the three components of this play or the three participants, souls, matter, and God, are all eternal and imperishable, never born, never die. So this whole play is also eternal in nature. And when I say eternal in nature, I mean that there is no point in time which does not have a past or a future. So if you see this whole existence as a straight line, then there is a beginning of the straight line before which there is nothing, and then there is an end. But when you see the picture and you see that it is a cycle or a circle, then you understand that there is no point where there is no past and no future. So every point has a past and a future. So this is the time cycle, this whole wheel, and then there is always a past and a future because everything is eternal and imperishable. So it's not like there is one beginning and before that there was nothing. So before that also there was something. And then there is no action of which there is no consequence. So whatever is right now, it is creating a future too. So there is always this cycle of past, present, and future. And this is how we keep rotating all the time. So now in this drama wheel, now you have to keep in awareness that the knowledge that I am sharing with you is whatever Shiv Baba shared. So I will give you some logic in understanding why I think it is correct. But that's something that I have reflected on and I'm sharing. But God never gave any logic about his truth. So you should know that God said it is like this, just like, a papaya is a papaya and a mango is a mango. So the world is like this. Now, there is no why in this, but I will try to, have some logical explanation also. But then this is how God tells it. He doesn't explain why it is so because there is no why. So this is the nature of creation. So you don't ask why an atom has a proton and a neutron and an electron. This is an atom and then it creates a molecule and this and that. So this is how it is. So there is no question of why, it's what is it. So that what we are understanding here. So Baba says that this whole creation is in the form of a cycle or a circle, and this cycle repeats. So we reach a point from the beginning of the cycle to the end, and then we again go back to the beginning. So this is a cycle which is continuously repeating itself. So just like your time clock, so when you see a time clock, it starts from 12 a.m. and then it goes to 12 p.m. and then it again goes back to 1, 2, 3. So this is how it goes. So now this one full cycle before repetition, it has the duration of 5,000 years. So it takes 5,000 years for one cycle to complete and then repeat. So this is how it is. Now, what is, how do we, what do I say, agree with this 5,000 years thing? So Baba has told us that in the beginning, that is right now we are at the end, almost at the end. So in the beginning of the cycle, that is 5,000 years ago, the population was approximately 9 lakhs. So this is the figure that Baba has given us. Now, I have I have been into some population studies earlier, and I tried to logically analyze this based on my understanding of how population grows. So, according to the logic I have understood, you see, 100 years back, the world population was approximately some 2 billion, and this is available on Google. So now it is approximately 8 billion. And then another 100 years back, it was approximately 1 billion. So if it takes 200 years for the population to increase from 1 billion to 8 billion. So, and you know that population increases by geometric progression. So, does it take lakhs of years to for the population to reach 1 billion? No, it doesn't. So, if you see in that sense, the figure that Baba gives us looks very reasonable. So, Baba says that the population, the world population starts from approximately 9 lakhs, and then slowly, gradually, in 5,000 years duration, you come to this voluminous population of approximately 8 billion. So, Baba says that all the souls that are up there are coming down slowly, gradually, and that is getting emptier and emptier, and this is getting fuller and fuller. And then there is a time we all go back again, and then again this cycle repeats, and again there is this 9 lakh which come down. So basically, Baba comes to teach us how to go back and how to come back again. So, because the cycle has to repeat. Now, to go back, you need to know that you will not take anything with you, you will go back as a soul. So, this is why we are practicing soul consciousness, because you have to start detaching mentally from everything that you think you are based on what you have and what you do, so that you become this free soul. And when it is time to go back, because once it is time, we have to go back. There is no looking back, there is no saying, wait God, I have some work left. So no, that all that doesn't work. So we have to get ready to go back. So this is basically the art of dying that you are learning here. So how do we go back? We come to a place within our consciousness where we are completely detached from the body and the external surroundings. Now, the thing is, you don't know when you have to go back. Okay, so it could take another 20 years, it could take another 30 years, it could be tomorrow, it could be any day. So, now what do you do in this time? So, Baba says that you cannot leave everything and sit and keep waiting that you have to go back, right? So you have to keep doing everything and also keep preparing to go back. So Baba says you have to continuously attach and detach. So this has to go on. Like, now that I am giving you the class, I cannot be in a state where I do not know what I am talking and I am not aware of who you are and who is listening. No, I have to be fully present. And once I press the end meeting button, then I have to come back to myself and know that I am just a soul. And then again, when I have to engage in another activity, I go back and fully perform, and I'm fully present. I am in my best state of awareness. And then whenever I'm finished doing that work, I again detach. I again come back to this place of lightness. And I do not carry the burden of whatever I did in the last second. So even if, in my opinion, it went well, I don't keep getting excited and happy about how well it went. I put a full stop to it. Or if it didn't go that well, also I put a full stop to it. Okay, that was in the last second, so I don't know what's going to happen in the next second. So let me come to my place of awareness within myself. So you are an actor on this stage, and you need to keep going back to the green room. So you need to keep touching up your makeup and keep coming back to that state of peace and happiness and pure consciousness, while acting on this stage. So you act and then you go back and then you again, condition yourself that I am a soul and come back to your state of absolute peace and absolute happiness. So this is the method Baba teaches us for going back. And then the world that is to come, for which we have to get ready, because the new world does not entertain the sanskars that we have right now. So you cannot believe in Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest and go into the new world, because there is no competition there, there is only cooperation. So you have to condition yourself and understand that the new world is a world of pure love, pure joy. There is cooperation, there is peace, there is happiness. So there are these sanskars of competition and anger and disappointment and attachment and hurt, they don't work there. So by training us and giving us a vision of how the new world operates, we start understanding what are the sanskars I need to cultivate to go back to that new world. So we have to do these two things right now: create the sanskars for going back home and create the sanskars for coming back to the new world. So this is why Baba has come down, and Baba is telling us that this cycle repeats every 5,000 years, and I come every 5,000 years and I teach you. Now, when I teach you, not everybody will learn. Why? Because not everybody was there. So there are 9 lakh souls who were in the beginning of the golden age. So when the new world started, so let me give you a division of the yugas or the ages. So in this span of 5,000 years, the 5,000 year period is divided equally into 4 parts. 1250 years of duration is the duration of each part. So there are 4 yugas or 4 ages in these 5,000 years. And the first one is the golden age, then is the silver age, then the copper and the iron age. So there is this Satyug, Treta Yug, Dwapar Yug and Kali Yug. So the corresponding English names are golden age, silver age, copper age and iron age. And every yuga is 1250 years each. Now, if you look at the picture, there is a small age called the confluence age between Kali Yuga and Satyug, between the iron age and the golden age. There is a small period called the confluence age. And what is the confluence age? Confluence age is the age where God creates this bridge between the iron age and the golden age. So going from the golden age to the iron age is a very smooth process, because that's a process of descent and it doesn't take any energy to fall down. Now, if you want to fall down from wherever you are sitting, it doesn't require any effort. You can just fall down very easily. But then if you want to get up and sit back, that requires effort. So from the golden age to this iron age, there is an ongoing process of deterioration, disintegration, depletion. So this is very natural, and according to the law of entropy, it is aided by nature. So there is no issue in that. But when you want to rise, when you want to go back to your pure consciousness or your elevated stage, then you need help. You need that one who is the ocean of purity, ocean of knowledge, to assist you. So that is when God comes, and confluence age is the time when God comes and revives us or rejuvenates us. So right now you are in the confluence age. Your confluence age started whenever you started undertaking the course. So that is your beginning of the confluence age. And then you are not always in the confluence age. So, although you got introduced to God and got introduced to the truth, only when you are in awareness of them, you are in the confluence age. Okay, so when you are in the confluence age, you are moving forward, and whenever you are not in the confluence age, you are like going downwards. So, you see, this confluence age is not a physical age like the Iron Age. So, the Iron Age is a very evident and physical age that's going on. Kali Yuga is very real in the sense of you can feel it to your bones. But when we talk about the confluence age, this is an age of elevated consciousness superimposed on the Iron Age. So the Iron Age is going on, and then you are in the confluence age whenever you are aligned with Baba and the truth. So this is how it is. So now you see, just like you talk about Muhurat, you all know that we talk about Muhurat. So people say this is a Shubh Muhurat and this is an Ashubh Muhurat, right? So, but then in that Shubh Muhurat also, people can, things go wrong. So it's not like it's a Shubh Muhurat, so everything is going well, because that Shubh Muhurat is for those who are aware of the Shubh Muhurat and who tend to do good things in that Shubh Muhurat. So, this confluence age is also the Shubh Muhurat, when God is giving you the knowledge and the power to create a destiny which can take you to the golden age. But then you have to take advantage of this confluence age. It is not like it is the confluence age, so God has come, so why is this going wrong and that going wrong? That law doesn't, that logic doesn't apply here. So God has come is true, but then you have to stay in awareness of God for this to work for you. So this is the thing. So I am in the confluence age since 12 years, and I have been very aware of the presence of God, and I feel halfway into the golden age. So I can tell you from my experience that if you really take advantage of this auspicious time, then you can feel the magic of this time. So this is how it is. Now not everybody will take advantage of this time, because not everybody was in the golden age. So you can only be reminded of what you already know. So only those 9 lakh souls who lived the golden age will come to be reminded of that purity, that state of peace, when they listen to this knowledge. So it's like we are all in amnesia right now, and then God is reminding us of what was. And then if I was there, I will be reminded of it. And then, when you listen to Gyan, you will shake your head this way, and otherwise you will give me a very blank look, because if you were not there, all this will not make sense to you. So this is something that we need to understand. So that is why Brahma Baba. Now, why Brahma Baba? Because Brahma Baba was the number one soul in the golden age. So, Brahma Baba was the Narayan soul. So, because he was the Vishwa Maharajan in the golden age, that's why when Baba comes and enters his body and talks about creating the golden age, he gets it because he was there, so he is reminded of it. And so are the 9 lakh souls who were there in the beginning. Now, when we talk about the golden age and the silver age, 1250 years plus 1250 years in combination, they are called the Swarg or heaven or Satyug. So you see, everywhere we are talking about Swarg, heaven, Satyug, Bahisht, Jannat. Even economics talks about utopian society. So where is all of that? So we are taking these names, but if you ask somebody when did paradise exist, or when was utopian society in place. So they tell you it was never there. So then why are we even talking about it? So Baba says it's not like it never existed. 2500 years it was absolutely perfect. The world was in the best state possible, and that is what we refer to as the paradise or the golden age or the satyug or the bahisht or jannat or utopia. These names refer to that world. And Baba says in the beginning there are 9 lakh souls, and in the end of the silver age or treta yug, that is half the cycle down, the population is 33 crores. So in the end of the Treta Yug, the population is 33 crores. This is why you say 33 crore Devi Devataएं. So you must have heard of this phrase 33 crores deities, and those deities are not living somewhere up there. They are the inhabitants of this world until 2500 years back. And who are you and I? We are one of those deities. So we could be amongst the 9 lakhs, we could be amongst the 33 crores, but we are the ones who were there. This is why you are sitting here and I'm talking to you, and you are not leaving. So if you are not leaving, it means you are one of them. So this is the sign. So now you could be the 9 lakh one, you could be the 33 crore one, but you are definitely amongst the 33 crores. Now, when you came will be decided by what you will do after this. So now that you are taking the course, definitely you are amongst those 33 crores. But then, if you imbibe this and put it into action, and then you do as God says and become your best version, then you are probably the ones who came in the beginning. And then from then on, so now we have to understand that in that swarg or heaven, that is the period of 1 to 2500 years, there is no sorrow. So it is called the land of happiness. So why is it called the land of happiness? Because one thing we must know is that sorrow is the offspring of vices. So there are 5 main vices: lust, anger, ego, attachment, and greed. So whenever there are these vices, and yesterday I told you that these vices are our attachment to people, places, and things. And when we are attached, we are in sorrow. I told you that cycle of sorrow, anger, and fear. So when there is no attachment, there is no sorrow, there is no anger, there is no fear. So in the golden age and in the silver age, there is no attachment. So we are called Mohjeet. So you must have heard of this story, and this is a very famous story which is told in the Shastras of a Mohjeet Raja. So it is said there was a king and he was Mohjeet, and then he said that nobody in my kingdom has attachment. So then the person said, how do you know they don't have attachment, and how do I believe that? So he said, you take my clothes and you dip them in blood of some animal, and then you take it to the kingdom and you share this news of my death from the one who is standing on the doorstep of the palace to everyone inside, and you see their reaction. So when this fellow takes that cloth of the king dipped in blood and he goes to the door, so that guard on the door of the palace, and he shows it to him and says, your king is dead. So he says, okay, my king is dead, fine. So this is the response he keeps getting from every member. And then when he reaches the queen also, the queen says, okay, so the king is no more, fine. So this is how they respond, and nobody knows how to be sorrowful because there is no attachment. So now you see, Baba says there is no attachment, so there is no sorrow, and you operate lovingly with everything. It's not like you are dissociated or anything, but you are not attached. Now, what is living without attachment? Living without attachment is you are loveful while it lasts, but you never miss. So you are always loveful, genuinely and fully loveful to everyone and everything while it is there, but you never miss anyone or miss anything, because that is not the source of your loveful state or your happiness. Your happiness and your love is unconditional. It is not consequent upon their being or not being. So this is the stage in which we are in the golden age and silver age. Now, how do we reach that stage? Because we practice it now. So these sanskars that we will have in the golden age need to be created now for that golden age to come into existence. So this is why Baba is teaching us to rise above lust, anger, ego, attachment, and greed by understanding that you don't have a body. These relationships are not yours, they are roles, and you are just a soul. You don't have a body, and you only belong to that one God. You have all your relationships with that one. So you perform your role without attachment, because all your attachment is with God. So these are the trainings that the Supreme Director is giving us so that we can get ready for our new role. So Baba teaches us that in the golden age and silver age, there is absolutely no sorrow. And it is said, Dukh ki avidya. So Dukh ki avidya means you don't know what Dukh is. Ichha ki avidya. You don't know what desire is. So, now even if you say, I am not sorrowful, you know what sorrow is. But in the golden age and silver age, you don't know what desire is or don't know what sorrow is. So, for a person who doesn't know, can't feel that. So, this is the full state in which we are, and that's what we need to develop right now. Then what happens? So 2500 years, the soul has made a journey and taken many births in that. And then when we come down to the copper age or the Dwapar Yuga, we have lost half our energy. And when we have lost half our energy because of this birth and death, and do you know the law of energy stays? Anything in motion depletes itself. So when we, the soul, are in this state of motion of taking birth and death, we deplete ourselves. And in doing that, we lose our fullness, or we lose our state of awareness, peace, purity, happiness, bliss, power. And then, just like when the light goes out, the darkness sets in. So these vices come up, or when we are not fully self-sovereign, then this dependency on people, places, and things start happening. And then we start it attaching, and then we start experiencing these vices called the lust, anger, ego, attachment, and greed. And because of these vices, we start experiencing sorrow. Now, we have to understand that when there is no sorrow, there is no religion, there is no bhakti. Because you have heard of that saying, Sukh mein kare na koi simran, hai na? So, dukh mein simran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koi. So, when there is happiness, nobody remembers God. And because God is the bestower of happiness. So, just like a child remembers the mother when he's hungry, okay, and when he is not hungry, he plays. So, similarly, When we are not in sorrow, we don't call out to God. We call out to God when we are in sorrow. So 2500 years, there is no bhakti, there is no devotion, there is no calling out, there are no pilgrimages, there are no religions. The only religion is happiness and peace and purity. And then when we become lustful, angry, egoistic, and all that stuff, and we go into adharma. So, adharma means when we go against the religion of the soul, when we start acting out of greed, attachment, ego, lust, anger, then there is sorrow, and then we start calling out to God. And so you can see in that picture that that is the time when various religions come. So if you see the history of religions, Abraham came 2500 years back, Buddha came some 2200 years back, Christ came some 2000 years back. So all these religions come in these 2500 years. And if you look at the recent research, they tell you that all the scriptures in Hinduism, the Gita, the Ramayana, the Vedas, they were all written in this period between 2000 and 2500 years back. So, this is what historians are telling us today, and Baba has been telling this since many years. And Baba has said that all the religions, all the seeking, all the scripture writing, it all takes place in these 2500 years because we are trying to figure out how to devise certain rules so that we can keep the society together. So the society was kept together by these dictates from religion. So now, what did religion tell you? So now we have to understand the difference between religion and knowledge also. So, what is Baba telling us, and what did the scriptures tell us, or the dharmatmas like Christ, Buddha, and Abraham tell us? We need to understand the difference between that also. Now, you see, if you read the Ramayana, you will not be told that you are a soul and you have to behave like a soul. Or you read the Mahabharata or the Gita, so they will not look at you as a soul. What is said is, if you are a king, you behave like a king. A woman should behave like a woman. A man should behave like a man. A Shudra should behave like a Shudra. A Brahmin should behave like a Brahmin. Yes, a child should behave like a child. A mother should behave like a mother. Now, what religion gave us or scriptures gave us was a code of conduct based on your role. So it was laid out that you are your context of operation. So if you are a woman or a child or a king or a subject, you have to behave likewise. So it was always about how to be a good archer, how to be a good student, how to be a good guru, how to be a good parent, how to be a good child. It was never about how to be a good soul. So, what happens when you talk about these values? So, I choose to call that value system, and what Baba is teaching is about virtues, not values. So, values teach us what is appropriate behavior considering your context of operation. So, if you are a woman, you should uphold the values of a woman. If you are a Hindu, you should uphold the values of being a Hindu. So, when we say value system, you see, the soul needs power to uphold a value system. Now, let's say, for example, it was laid out that the soul who is in the role of a woman has to go and follow her husband to the jungle when the husband goes into exile according to the dictates of the father, or the father says that you have to go for a vanvas for 14 years, and the son follows outright, right? So that is a good son and a good wife. So if you want to be a good wife, what you do is you follow your husband to the jungle, and then you live with him, and you have to face every adversity with him and do as he says. And even if you find it illogical that he should leave the palace and go, but he doesn't find it illogical because it is dictated by the father. So you don't find logic with your father, so you do as he says, and the woman does as the man says. So this is how it was laid out. Now if it could work that way, it would be fantastic, right? If it could work that way, it would be fantastic. There is no challenging it. So but then today, if I ask you to do that, so if I ask you as a son to go and spend 14 years in the jungle because your father promised somebody in a weak moment, then do you agree with that? And then if you ask your wife to come along, and she should come along even without asking, so you just sit there and you pack your bags, and then she also follows. So if it was to happen that way, it would be fantastic, but that's not happening anymore, because the soul doesn't have that kind of power. So when the soul has power, these things don't matter. So I remember that even 20 or 25 years down the line, women didn't mind staying at home all day and looking after the kitchen. So I have seen my mother, and she never um, she never expressed any desire to go out and do something, or she never had the desire. I don't know whether she had it or not, but she never expressed her desire to go and go on a trip or have some holiday, or we didn't even assume that she would be having any desire, or she would also want to take a break. So we never assumed that as children. And then she was happy cleaning the so even she got her free time, she never watched television. She was happy taking out the cereal from the dabba and then cleaning the dabba and putting the cereal back, and this is what she did whenever she had free time. So she was happy doing that. Why? Because when a soul is powerful, you don't mind these things. So you can tolerate, you can do a lot of stuff, you don't need entertainment, you don't need distraction, you are fuller within. So you are as happy in the jungle as you are at home. So you don't choose between a comfortable life and a life of discomfort. So that kind of value system worked when the soul was powerful. But now, why it doesn't work anymore is because we souls have taken several births after that, and in the taking those births, we have become more and more depleted, we have lost our energy, and now any little thing is a big problem. So you see, 10 years down the line, we 10 years back, we used to say, oh, this is such a small matter. So you remember that friends, when you were in school or in college, you didn't mind anything, or you didn't get insulted at the slightest thing. So we had a lot of tolerance, and we had a lot of happiness and joy and self honor within. We didn't get picked and offended at the drop of a hat, but now we do, because we are getting depleted and depleted every second. And with this depletion, so you see, anything on the external looks very daunting when you are weak. So if there is a weak child, so let's say there is a person who is suffering from some physical ailment, and you ask them to lift a small box, it becomes a big trouble for him because he doesn't have the strength to do it. So, lack of strength makes the circumstance or the situation difficult. So, this is why small acts of kindness, small acts of patience, small acts of tolerance look very daunting to us right now because we are the souls who have become very depleted. So now Baba comes and says, you can't say you should and you shouldn't, and this person is my husband, so he needs to earn, and this person is my wife, so she needs to be polite and cooperative, and this and that. So a husband may not earn, a wife may not be polite and cooperative these days because the soul inside is very, very depleted. So what you do is you stop seeing yourself in the role, and you stop seeing other poor people in the role. You start understanding that you are a soul, and your anger, your irritation, your frustration is coming from your lack of virtues. So you sit in soul consciousness, turn towards Baba, and fill yourself. And when you see somebody operating from a weak position, you understand they are a soul and they are weak. So you also show them the path to recharge themselves. So Baba says, now don't go into these should and shouldn't and right and wrong according to the value system, because now I'm showing you the true picture. It's not the role, it is the soul that is the truth. And when you see the soul, you know that you are weak, the other person is weak, and then you empathize with them, and you practice spirituality, and you empower yourself and show others also the path. And don't go into a woman should be like this, a man should be like this, a child should be like this. Anybody can be like anything because right now we are all depleted, and you have to accept that and work on yourself and your sanskars, and also teach others how to work on their sanskars. And when we do this, we will create a new sansar, and then there will be this going back and coming back. Okay, so we will do this in more detail on Monday. So this tomorrow will be no class. I will send you a video about the life of Brahma Baba, and then on Monday we will take this up. And this is not a 21-day course. It is up to you if you don't want to continue. But if you don't want to continue, then it is your loss. So you must understand that God has come and He is making us, He is adopting us, teaching us for a lifetime. So we must pay attention to this 1 hour of study every day and try to imbibe whatever we can. Okay. Now let me take up the question and then we will meditate. Suppose I go to God with a problem in my mind. So you must understand there is nothing like a problem. The problem is the creation of a weak mind. So you don't take the problem to God, you take your mind to God. Because when your mind is powerful, the problem is non-existent. So the problem is a creation of a weak mind. So you don't take a problem to God, you take your mind to God, make it powerful, and then the problem doesn't look like a problem. Okay. So this is the answer to your question. Let's meditate. Sit still. And in this moment of silence, Just look at your whole journey. You, the soul, have been around for 5,000 years on this stage. Taken numerous bodies, performed several roles, and here you are before Baba. Baba is looking at me as who I am, the original, the eternal, the pure being of light. Everything else is conditioning. I am just this one, this pure, peaceful, loveful child of God. With my third eye, I can feel the presence of Baba, who has adopted me in this auspicious confluence age. I had never imagined that Shiv Baba himself would come for me, adopt me, teach me, tell me all the secrets of the world. But this is all happening. This is an amazing moment, a moment when I am playing my role with Baba. In this moment, I see myself as the Shakti who belongs to Shiv. This companionship, this relationship is so enriching and empowering. Just sit in these feelings for some time.